This afternoon, it is a lovely 2 o'clock here in the UK. I'm on a little bit earlier. We're going to be talking about why it is easier to sell a 30K thing than a 3K thing with social selling. So wherever you're watching, wherever you're joining, say hi. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. There's no countdown clock. There's no big pitch in this. This is about helping you understand and reframe the way you think about what you're trying to sell. Now, if you've never joined any of these before, it is me sharing my thoughts with you from 25 years in business and the last 14, 15 years of actually helping people get clients on social media without big audiences, without doing crazy social media influencer tactics. So I'm going to walk you through why it's easier for you to sell a 30K thing than a 3K thing. And before we get into it, I want to tell you a story, because this will highlight why this whole talk I'm doing today needs to exist. I was talking to somebody and they approached me, they booked a call with me and said, Dean, I'm very reliant on referrals. A lot of my business comes from word of mouth. When I get in front of the right people, they really get what I'm trying to do and I close and convert them really well. But getting them in front of me is almost impossible. It feels like a brick wall. So they had this bright idea of what they were going to do, sell basically some kind of course or a book. And so very, very, very cheap, sell them and then upsell those people. And I said, what most people don't realize is the level of momentum you need to actually make that work. He didn't realize. So he was struggling to get one person interested and thought the answer was to get many more people interested at a lower level, and that would work. That requires marketing to do the marketing, right? In other words, you're selling something cheaper to sell something more expensive. It requires marketing to marketing to marketing. It's a funnel. The problem with that is you never know if it's going to work. And I've met many people who've gone, I'm going to sell a $297 thing and then upsell people. And it sounds really smart. But if you look at the people who are very successful doing that, they have either millions or tens of thousands of followers, or they're throwing a shit ton of money at ads. That's the reality. So you either need a big, highly engaged audience, or you need to be prepared to spend money on ads. Now, when you buy something, let me just pull this up. This is my book. So I published a book in 2014. Was it 2015? 2015? This is my book. If I wanted to sell this to you on social media and I wanted to sell thousands, I think I've sold about 9,000 of this now, something like that, right? So 9,000 copies, right? For me to sell tens of thousands, yeah, I would need an audience way bigger than what I've got right now. I would need an audience so highly engaged, like it would be a full-time job. So think about it. If I'm selling thousands of these, or even hundreds of these, let's go with hundreds of these, to actually get a conversion, I actually need infrastructure to do that because I can't do it one-to-one. And so often the flaw is that many people go down is that the effort to get that paying client, it's more to do it complicated than it is to do it straightforward. And so the reason why I did this event was obviously to illustrate this bit, but also I want to think about and show you some maths. And I'm hoping this will work on screen to help you think about this. So let me see if I can make this a bit bigger so you can see it. This is my lead calculator that I use in a lot of my workshops, and I'm going to change the layout so you can see it a little better. How's that? Right, so here we go. So this is my lead calculator. And the way it works is when a client comes to me, I'm trying to help them assess how many leads they need to make a sale. It's a bit annoying that I can't make this full screen. Let me see if I can do picture in picture. There we go. So what I'll do is I will sit with the client and go, okay, what are you selling? And what's your revenue goals? That's the first thing. This will all make sense in a moment, but I want you to bear with me and go through these maths with me. Let's say the goal is $20,000 of new business in a month. Now, this is where most people get this wrong. $20,000, and then I go, so what's your average sale price? What's this thing you're selling? Now, I'll just tell you, very, very often, clients will say, well, it depends. When they say the word it depends, that tells me they have no focus. They're not focused on what they're selling. So let me show you what I do. If I'm going to sell my one-to-one coaching program, so in those 6 months where I get you into revenue, and it's $15,000. Sometimes I'll do it a little bit cheaper for some people. So let's say it's $13,000. I do it a little bit cheaper. Sometimes people ask me, is there any deal I can do? And usually sometimes I'll say, well, if you sign within the next 7 days, you can have this much off. So I do little incentives like that. For me to get to $20,000, I need 2 clients, but that's only half the story. Yeah, 2 clients. So when we reverse backwards through what we need to do to get those 2 clients, there is a certain number of leads I need, proposals and calls. There are a number of leads I need to get that number. Most people know what I'm saying here, but this next part of what I'm saying, actually is the bit that they miss. Every part of this process, getting the clients closed, getting the proposals, not just sending a proposal to somebody who's actually seriously interested, getting the calls booked, all requires infrastructure, systems. If you don't have those systems, you will make it up as you go along. You will wing it. You will fall into patterns that might be really bad. And so what happens is every call, every lead is dealt with differently, which means you have no pattern of what works and what doesn't because everything's unique. Now, you might like that, but I promise you your business's revenue won't, because actually it's unpredictable. So let me give you an example of this, right? Let's say you have a really good process. Now, I would argue most people, especially if you're reliant on referrals, you probably don't have a good process. Not because you're a bad person, not because you're not good at what you do, because you're not getting the volume of leads coming through to your business that actually allows you to develop those systems and tweak them. I've been tweaking my systems from lead to client for basically 10 years. So I've started in one place and gone, if we improve that, if we improve that, if we improve that, we get a better system. That's why clients work with me, because they don't want to wait 10 years to figure it out. So I can go here and go, okay, how good is my infrastructure? Now, if your infrastructure is pretty poor, you actually need more leads. You actually need way more leads than me to achieve the same goal. Because often people think, well, if I just get leads, that'll be enough. No. You've got to have a solid process on the back of that, because people will drop out of your process. It's natural that people drop out of your process. It's normal. How many drop out of your process is in your control. And this is not about manipulating people. This is not about pressurizing people. It's about having a process that keeps the momentum for them. Because when they become a lead, they're doing it for a reason. When they book a call, they're doing it for a reason. If they lose sight of that reason, you lose opportunity. So if your system is leaky, everybody's system's leaky, by the way, just to be clear, there's no 100% watertight process. It's always leaky. But if you leak more than the average, you're going to have to work harder and harder and harder and harder to actually get a lead. So you will have to work probably 10 times harder than I will to actually get leads and clients, because my infrastructure might be just a bit further ahead of yours. And so when somebody is reliant on referrals, or you get a lot of your business from word of mouth, what happens is your infrastructure you have got, your behaviors, your way of selling, the way you approach everything is wired to people coming to you with very high trust because of somebody else. Now, that does not mean you have to be more aggressive, but what it does mean is your system has to be built with lower trust levels, assuming people have lower trust in you than, that client who's just told them an amazing result that you've just done for them. This is just common sense, but a lot of people are not thinking about it in this way. And then when you think about it, oh yeah, actually, if you want an easier way to sell, an easier way to get clients, it's this infrastructure that matters. Now, let me show you what happens when you really dial in this infrastructure. So this is bad infrastructure as an example. And so you need 500 leads to get 2 clients. And you might think that's crazy, but that's typically what may happen with cold. That's what cold outreach looks like. That's what, actually, I would say it's worse than that. That's what spamming looks like. Yeah. So if your process is really bad, you'd probably, the logic is let's just do more. That's wrong. It's the wrong way of thinking. Let's do better. And so if we just improve it marginally, we improve, look what's improved. Yeah. Look what's improved. We've actually got less leads, and less calls, because we're filtering the calls by quality. Because our lead generation is better and more tightly focused, we get less people, but better calls. So then of those calls, because we're good at running those calls, just under 50% of those will go to a recommended proposal, the next step. And of that, 2 will convert. That's still, by the way, relatively conservative. A good salesperson would be way over that, like way over that. So let's look at how we dial it up even more. And you go, hang on a minute. For me to get $20,000 a month, I need a good process, which gets me 33 leads, 7 calls booked, 4 proposals sent, 2 clients won. So you can see how often for many people, yes, there's a lead generation problem. Of course, a lot of people have that. But the actual real problem is, okay, how do I convert them? And is my conversion systems actually working? The more you invest time in getting them right, the easier it is to get a client. And so very often people think, well, if I lower the price, if I bring the price down, it will actually be easier. No. Look, $297 thing, even with good conversion, to get 68 clients, yeah, to make 20,000 at $297, you need 68 clients. It's a lot. It's a lot. So let me show you what you can do. Let's say you have a $30,000 service. Maybe it's a 12-month coaching program or a fractional engagement. Yeah, maybe that's 6 months. I don't know. Maybe it's a 6-month executive coaching. It's a managed service, so you're looking after their computer systems. Whatever that is, you go, right, let's look at the offer value of 30,000. Do you have something that is 5 figures to sell? Because it's easier. It's way easier. Because, 1, you can go, I'm only going to sell this one thing. I'm going to sell it to this one type of audience, and I'm going to have one way to get leads, and I'm going to build all my mechanics off it so it's step by step by step. So if you have that real focus all the way through what you're doing, 1, you can tailor what you're offering to very specific problems. People pay more for specialists than generalists. So if you're an MSP and you have a specialism in high compliance environments for, say, financial services, it is expected that you will charge more than a generalized MSP. So your positioning changes your price because people want to pay for specialisms. So the people who will pay for specialisms are the ones who have the highest risk and concern if it goes wrong. So if an MSP for an for a financial services company messes up and there's a data breach, there's significant downtime, it can actually cause them legal problems. So they are more likely to pay more for that kind of service. So when you start to go, hang on a minute, let's appeal to the people who really pay for what we do, you actually shift markets. Same problem, same service, but you're delivering it for a different buyer who values different things, who wants that specialism. This is how most people can get to ROI on LinkedIn the fastest, ROI on any channel the fastest. It's not by going wide, it's by going narrow and defining one service that's high value that you sell into one audience that really values the problem. Or as somebody said to me, the top 1%. Who are the top 1% where this is more than just a commodity? So in financial services, who looks after the IT is really important. If you're a CEO in a regulated environment, an executive coach that's used to dealing with people in those regulated environments will be charged more. Look at where your 1% audience is because you build an offer around that which allows you to position yourself and charge more. But look what happens. Yeah, let's say, and I'm just going to be conservative here, and I'm going to break the number. I'm going to assume that you're a small business owner, a solopreneur for want of a word, and you've got a £30,000 offer. £30,000, $30,000 offer, whatever number that is. You will need, if you have a watertight infrastructure, both from getting the lead to what you do with the lead, if you have a watertight system to do that, how you do it, yeah, you need 3 calls a month. 3. Now, that won't compute for some of you because everything you see outside of the world is telling you you need volume. It's wrong. You only need volume when you're trying to appeal broadly. You need volume when you want followers. You need volume when you want to go viral. You need volume when you want to be famous. But actually, to make serious money, some of the most profitable companies that you can see on planet Earth, you will never know their name because they don't need this big mass marketing thing. You don't see Rolls-Royce marketing and putting ads up on Facebook. Why? Wrong places. Wrong places. You don't see Bentley advertising and running paid ads. Why is it that Rolls-Royce are not at car shows? They're at private jet and yachting events. They change where they're positioned. And so when you think like this and you go, I'm selling something for $30,000 to high-end compliant financial services people, what world do I need to be in? And this is where it's really important how you build your social media, whether that be LinkedIn, whether that be Facebook. Who are you hanging around? Which world are you in? One of the funny things I see on Facebook, which is really funny, is I see the coaches all hanging out with each other. And I'm like, where's the buyers? There's a reason why most coaches make no money because they're all hanging out with each other, coaching each other, which might be great for professional improvement, CPD. But actually, if you want to be good on Facebook at getting those $30,000, $40,000 deals, you need to be in the Facebook rooms, the Facebook groups with the people who are actually in the lawyers groups. You need to be in a different world. Same on LinkedIn. Who's in your network? Have you got the CEOs and CFOs of financial services firms in your network, or have you got a load of people who do what you do? Have you got a load of people who are your colleagues? So the lead generation is not the beginning of the process, actually the positioning of who you are and who you hang around with, and what world you're operating, the ecosystem you're in really does matter. Really does matter. So I would personally audit, what world are you operating in? Number two, then, what am I actually going to sell? Like, not I can sell 5 things. In my mind, what am I focused on? What am I focused on? Because if you're not focused on anything, you're not driving anything. Your content's all over the place. You're not leading anybody anywhere. And this is not about being pushy. This is not about being spammy or aggressive. It's about focus. If you focus on what am I selling to who, who's the top 1%, what's the price point of what I want to sell, now I can build a strategy around that to get the right leads, which means now I'm getting better quality leads because I've defined who I want. Now, okay, now I need the infrastructure of my calls. What am I doing in those calls? What am I doing to get the calls? How do I run the calls? How do I follow up the calls? All of that process so that it keeps the momentum, so you keep your conversion rate high. The higher your conversion rate, the less leads you need. The higher value your service, the less clients you need, which means you can offer a superior service. You can pace yourself. You can focus more time on client delivery, less time on marketing. Some people are spending so much time on marketing and yielding nothing, and yet the logic of what I'm saying, they already know. So as you start to build this improved process, your lead value that you need starts to come down. And so you can see, literally, right, if I do this really well, it's broken a little bit there. There we go. Yeah. It could be as little as 12 high quality leads per month. Now, I like to reverse engineer processes, because when you reverse engineer what you're trying to do, you start from where do I want to be, and you work backwards. You start to see, okay, all of these things are essential in the journey. There's a really useful stat that if you want a sustainable business, you probably need an ecosystem around you of about 1,000 ICPs. 1,000. Now that might seem a lot to some of you. That might not seem enough to a few of you. It all depends on what your average the value of your services are. Because for an example, if I'm selling a $297 thing, my ecosystem needs to be huge. We're talking about, if I need 1,100 leads, my ecosystem probably needs to be somewhere about 100,000 people. 100,000 if I need 1,100 leads, because, you know, roughly about 1%. But if I'm selling a $30,000 service, yeah, I need about 1,000. No, yeah, there or thereabouts. Yeah, 1,200, something like that. That's the magic of this. So, low volume, high value model. And the reason I'm sharing this is not because I think I'm going to reveal something transformative, although some of you looking at it in this way, it's probably gone, oh yeah, right? I'm not teaching you here anything you don't know. You already know this. The issue is you've probably skirted over it. You've probably not gone, okay, I need to think about this carefully. And then our human animal brain has kind of kicked in and gone, let's go volume, let's go volume, let's go volume. As soon as you go volume, you weaken your offer, you weaken your relevance to the target audience, you weaken your process, you weaken your calls, you weaken your proposals, you weaken everything. You dilute it. What I'm talking about is you have a potent process. So it's up to you what you do. It's your business at the end of the day. But how many leads would you rather have to deal with? Is it 10? Is it 12? You know, I'm not saying to you that you completely reshape your business model, but what I can tell you is if you don't have the volume of ecosystem, if you do not have 100,000 people circling in your ecosystem, whether that be engaged network, whether that be email list, whether it be followers, whatever we're looking at in terms of that ecosystem and how we choose to define it. I choose to define it as engaged audience. If you're selling $30,000 things and you only need one customer a month, your engaged audience is probably going to be, let's go worst case, 90 leads, let's say 3,000 ecosystem. Now, why am I saying a 3,000 ecosystem? 3% is a good number to go lead to ecosystem metric. If you've got 90 leads, then basically that would give you 3,000 total ecosystem. But most people should be around here, yeah, about here. So if let's just go 2,000 ecosystem. You can build that on LinkedIn. You don't build it randomly, it's deliberate, it's intentional, but you can build that on LinkedIn. But why am I saying that number? Why am I saying a 2,100 ecosystem? Because at any given time, there is only around 3% of your market actively open to looking for what you've got to offer. Only a small smidgen of your target audience will be open right now. So when I'm saying that 2,100, that's not 2,100 leads. That's an ecosystem of people who know you in some way. They're familiar with you. They're building trust. They're seeing you in the feed, but you're building that ecosystem. Why that many? Because you need that many to be sustainable over the long term. So many people just think about lead generation as one step in front of themselves. They're thinking about next month. What I'm saying here is think about the next 12 months. So sure, whenever I work with a client, I'll just tell you straight. The reason I work for 6 months with a client, not 3 months, the first 3 months are the hardest. The second 3 months is where you really get in your stride. So I work intentionally, very hands-on with my clients in the first 3 months because I know that that's the hardest moment because the ecosystem doesn't exist. So your conversion has to be even tighter in those first 3 months. Once you get beyond that 3 months and you've got a bigger pool of people that you know, like, trust you, actually it gets easier. And so the reason why I'm talking about an ecosystem number of say 2,100 and that kind of way is because it's basically 99% or the 100% of the market that you're going to fish and try and get 1% out of it. 1% out of a small ecosystem. Now, a lot of you will get better and better and better at this because the more you talk to the right audience, if I can speak to exactly the situation my audience is facing, I can get really damn good at conversion. Because one, they deeply trust me because of what I've been doing to develop that ecosystem. Two, I'm talking their language. I understand their problem. Three, I have a service tailored to fit and solve their problem so they can see how it fits their situation. And four, I have a tight process to keep the momentum of my prospects. That's what you need. And then you can get to this kind of number and you start to look, well, hang on a minute. I only need about 1,200 people in my ecosystem now to make it work. There are people on Facebook, people on LinkedIn with less than 1,000 connections. Some of them are my clients, less than 1,000 connections, making more money than people with 100,000 followers because their potency of what they're doing, their process is so potent, it's so tight in the way they do it that they actually convert better. And that's not some sales skill. Although that helps, it's not sales skill. It's structure. It's focus. If I know who my ICP is, I know what problems they've got, and I know what I'm selling, my content, my profile, my process all gets clearer and sharper. If I'm wishy-washy about that, yeah, and I'll give you an example from my own situation. When I started helping people get clients on LinkedIn, I had in my head salespeople, marketing teams, and business owners. And Maverick, my business, actually does look after all three of those groups right now. But I can't do them all three clear-headed. I can't build something that works for all three of them and works well. Because every time I talk to a business owner, I alienate a marketing person. Every time I talk to a salesperson, the coaches and the fractional leaders and the lawyers and accountants and the other people go, I don't want to do that. So even though I'm selling the same thing to three different groups, those three different groups feel differently about it. And so I had this nightmare where I'm building this email list, building all this stuff and going, hang on a minute. Yeah, but if I say that, that'll annoy the small business owners. But if I say, oh, you can get leads from your content to the small business owners, the salespeople go, yeah, no, we need to get better at outreach. So I had this problem where I had this dilemma where three groups of people could buy from me, but they all was buying for slightly different reasons. And I had them all in an email list. And it was like, oh, what do I do? What do I sell? What do I say? And so what did we do? We segmented it. So Dean on LinkedIn talks to business owners. Maverick and the team, they talk to sales teams and marketing people. And we've siloed it a little bit for speed, clarity, and potency. And I would encourage you to do the same thing because it will massively improve your results. You'll get better and more success. So I just wanted to share that today and kind of give you that kind of insight of, when you do this, you actually get better results. And if you're not doing this and you go, Dean, I should have been doing this, let's talk. Go on my profile, find my call booking link, schedule a time to talk to me. I'll walk you through how we build that infrastructure so that you're not in this boat, you're actually up here. And we'll get you may be here right now, but we'll get you to there and here. And we'll get these offers and clarity going up so that you're actually getting a result. So if that sounds good, find the link on my profile, book a call, but don't be selling low ticket stuff. Think about it as high value, low volume, and approach LinkedIn, social selling, Facebook, wherever you are with that approach. High value, low volume. It's more sustainable for any small business owners. It's more sustainable for experts. It's a more profitable model where you don't have to hard market. You can actually just run a much simpler machine than most of these creators are telling you to do. So that's my 2 cents today. Have a great weekend. DM me if you want to talk, but hope this has been